All right, man, peace. So I did a video about a month or so back in regards to Saudi Arabia deciding to change their protocol, their rules and regulations in regards to allowing women to drive. I stated that it was going to be part and parcel of an incremental social engineering of Saudi Arabia to give more rights to women and to hopefully make them much more like Western society, where all the women are whores and they can promote homosexuality amongst the little boys. I also stated that, of course, the native Saudi Arabian men were going to rebel against it. Well, now CBS Morning News has a segment that basically confirms that sentiment. Of course, they're going to speak about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Major reforms are changing daily life for millions of people in Saudi Arabia. An anti-corruption campaign led to the house arrest of about 200 prominent figures in the Ritz Hotel. Authorities lifted a ban on female drivers earlier this year and allowed...
Look at this shit. How the hell you gonna let somebody drive dressed like that? It's bro like a damn ghost. How can she even see the road with that shit on?
And allowed women into sports stadiums for the first time.
Yes, so that they can implement groupie culture in Saudi Arabia like they have here in America.
Holly Williams is on the streets of Riyadh to show us how and why things are changing. Holly, good morning.
Good morning. What's happening in Saudi Arabia is not a revolution. Some crimes here are still punished with beheading, and women still need permission from a male relative to travel overseas.
Yes. Yes, and that's how it should be. I believe that that function over there is known as being a wali, W-A-L-I, if I remember correctly. That basically is a male guardian over a woman. Now they have different classifications for a wali. They have the wali who's a family member, and then they just have a general wali who is just a regular Saudi Arabian man who has the authority to tell just a random woman what to do. They also have a function where in marriage all three parties have to agree, that being the woman's father, the husband, and the woman herself. And basically silence by the woman, that basically is consent to the marriage. Okay. But yes, in Saudi Arabia and many quote unquote Middle Eastern countries, or Oriental countries as they're called, Eastern countries, they still have that practice known as a wali, which basically they have a similar concept in other societies across the world, particularly in the Eastern societies, where the man has authority over the woman. And as this female said, they don't believe that a woman should be able to travel abroad without a man's permission. Why is that? Because they understand that for the most part, the woman is a child and she'll get herself caught up in dumb shit. Most of the females in America, when they travel abroad, what do? They travel abroad to have sex with some strange guy or guys and throw those skeleton bones in the closet. That's the basic reason why most females travel.
But things are changing. Just take a look at this. This isn't exactly what you expect to see in an ultra-conservative Islamic kingdom.
Well, that's because they're trying to incrementally break down Saudi Arabia. Okay? One of the ways that they break down a society and socially engineer it is through pop culture. Now, these people here are celebrating something that is very akin to Halloween. I believe that they're at some type of comic book convention. Now, if you know anything about the history of comic books, and I collected comics when I was a little kid, most of the comic book characters are derived from an understanding of ancient mythologies and Hermetic philosophies. I have no doubt that Stan Lee, for example, was is a student of Hermetic philosophies. There's no doubt in my mind about that. When you look at the characters that he came up with, he's even on record as stating that the X-Men were an allusion to so-called black people. And Magneto was meant to represent Malcolm X, and Charles Xavier was meant to represent Martin Luther King. Now, if you understand the meaning behind that term X or X-Men, X is symbolic for Osiris, or the hidden god, right? Also known as Amun-Ra. Okay, that's why the X-Men are also known as children of the atom, because that represents the veneration of the sun. And then, of course, you have Thor and a lot of these other characters. Superman, who's just Baal, right? That's over in DC with Joe Simon and Jerry Schuster. The concept of the Superman, it comes from Friedrich Nietzsche, who of course was a descendant of George Hegel, philosophically. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. The point being is what? That most of your comic book characters are directly descended from the mythologies. And the mythologies are based in historical events that occurred involving Cush and Nimrod, and a lot of the antediluvian patriarchs. Okay, so the comic book is how they keep a lot of those mythologies alive. Like Batman, he represents Khonsu. Okay.
But Comic-Con has arrived in Saudi Arabia. Just last year, this celebration of comic book superheroes with no gender segregation would probably have been shut down by...
You see that? No gender segregation at the Comic-Con. Why is that? Because they're trying to socially engineer the men and the women to believe that they are interchangeable, that they're quote unquote equal.
Down by the country's religious police.
Like, I'm loving Saudi Arabia now.
Now look at these broads. This is in Saudi Arabia. These look like two dizzy bitches that you see in Times Square. They look like a couple of Dominicans. They do not look like Arab women at all. This chick has a couple of ear piercings in her ear. She got some wild ass shades on. Her other friend looked like Harley Quinn from Batman. You know, they look, man, they're on their way to incrementally trying to socially engineer that society. Okay.
So who changed things? Who is making your country a more...
Mohammed bin Salman.
Yeah. Mohammed bin Salman.
Yes.
Yeah. The crown prince.
Yes.
Yeah, Mohammed bin Salman, for those of you who don't know, is the crown prince of Saudi Arabia. He's also related to the person that I mentioned in the last video. I believe that the person's name is Walid bin Talal, who's one of the richest men in the world and is also a huge, huge advocate of feminism. Okay, now Saudi Arabia has an under-the-table deal with Great Britain to be allowed on the UN Human Rights Council. That's so that they don't take so much heat in regards to their treatment of many of their citizens. Great Britain is making a deal with them, of course, in exchange for oil, so that they don't get castigated for how they treat some of their citizens. And also, they've promised that they're going to implement a lot of rules and regulations to help empower the women. Okay, so this is why you see these two out here, and they look like they are hop, skip, and a jump from becoming lesbians, especially this chick on the left. I mean, come on, this chick look like Tom Cruise in Top Gun. The hell's going on?
Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is the favorite son of Saudi Arabia's ruler, King Salman, and he wants to modernize the closed-off kingdom. We saw him yesterday launching a new anti-terrorism coalition. The Crown Prince is only 32 years...
Damn, why she gotta be all up close to the camera like that? Shit. She ain't good looking enough to be that close to the camera.
Years old, and he isn't just the king's anointed successor. He's already enormously powerful in his own right.
Oh, I know why she gotta be up close to the camera. Because if she stand too far away, them Arab men they might chop her damn head off.
Prince Mohammed has used that power to round up more than 200 members of the Saudi elite, all accused of corruption, locking them up in this luxury hotel.
How you gonna be locked up in a luxury hotel? And the real reason why he locked them up most likely is because they're resistant to many of these social reforms that he has planned or that he's been told to implement. All right? Imagine this. They up there. I can't believe this. I'm locked in this room. 15,000 square feet. This is so small with gold floors. I can't believe this.
Critics say the Crown Prince is removing his rivals and detractors, but ordinary Saudis seem delighted. It should have happened earlier, said Bandar Al-Ataibi, who sells hunting falcons. It's brought us great happiness.
Now, falconry, that's an art form that goes back to antiquity. And particularly if you study the medieval world, that was very, very big. You would start off with a falcon, and then as you got better and better, you could proceed up to a hawk and even to an eagle. All right. Now they also train golden eagles for hunting out in the Nepal region and Tibet. And they have golden eagles that they can train to hunt and kill wolves. All right. So the eagle is viewed as what they call a patriarchal animal. Okay. That's why even in the scriptures, you have the ox, the eagle, and the lion that are viewed as patriarchal animals or totemic animals. But once again, in the medieval world, and even women would oftentimes be trained in falconry. All right. And as I stated, as they progressed upward, this is mostly for the men, though they would go to hawks and then eagles. And they would also train hunting owls as well.
The Saudi Arabian royal family has long depended on the support of Islamic clerics to rule this country of around 30 million. The big question now is whether these reforms will sooner or later spark a backlash from conservative Saudis.
You already know that it is. That Wahhabism is no joke. Of course it's going to spark a backlash. Them Saudi Arabian men, they're not going to tolerate that shit. Some bro going to try to walk up in their house with some skin-tight ripped jeans on, and that's going to be the end of her. All right? Her head is going to be flying in the air.
Nora?
All right, Holly Williams in Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much.
All right, so now this is a further report on the societal changes that they're engineering in Saudi Arabia. Let's see what they have to say.
Women in Saudi Arabia are pressing for their freedom, and they're beginning to get it.
Yeah, okay, if you say so. You keep talking that shit to the camera. Over there in Saudi Arabia, it's a totally different story. They're going to let them women believe that stuff. Those men are going to put on ski masks, and they're going to walk up in these different social engineering centers, and they're going to wreak havoc on a lot of these women. You watch.
Get it. Holly Williams has been in the kingdom for the past week. She is seeing...
Look at this shit. Broad trying to box.
The change firsthand as women train in gyms, get set to...
Carmelo Anthony better come get his woman. That chick look like Lala over there trying to box.
Set to drive and become more integrated, but there are still limits. Holly Williams in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, to show us how society, though, is changing. Holly, good morning.
Good morning. Saudi women face some very big challenges, including the male guardianship system, which means they need a male relative's permission to travel overseas or get married.
You see how they keep harping on that? Once again, brothers, that's known as a wali, W-A-L-I. All right, I'm going off of memory, so you brothers should go look that up yourselves. That's basically a concept of male guardianship where a man tells a woman where she can go and where she can't go. They want to eradicate that, okay? They want to eradicate that so that they can make the women over there like the ones here, miserable, depressed, addicted to antidepressants, and big sluts and whores, okay? That's what they're trying to do, but it's not going to happen over there because those men will die first.
But things here are beginning to shift.
If you think that Saudi Arabian women are all oppressed, shrouded and weak, you probably need to see this.
They're not victims. We are not victims. We're strong.
Hala Al-Hamrani runs the Fight Like a Girl
Oh, there go Lala.
boxing gym in Jeddah. She has a passion for combat sports.
Are you pushing for total equality? I mean, as much, yes, that would be great.
Yeah, okay. Let me say this. This chick didn't really know what she's doing. She's getting on TV talking this shit. She's probably spent some time in Great Britain or America, had a lesbian lover or two. Now she wants to come back to Saudi Arabia and try to carry that shit over. She's on TV saying something real dumb. All right? Don't be surprised to hear a story or follow-up story about something happening to this female.
But is there
Allegedly.
But is there total equality for women and men around the world? Not yet. So hopefully...
There never will be total equality for men and women around the world because men and women are not equal. Men can do things that women cannot do and will never be able to do, and women can do things that men cannot do and will never be able to do. Right? Instead of searching out for equality, you're supposed to search out the beauty that's intrinsic within you as a woman. And that's what people don't do. They're too busy trying to compete. All right? That philosophy of gender equality, that is leaven. Now, what people should be searching for is gender respect. Just because somebody is a woman does not mean that they deserve to get their ass kicked just because they might have a weaker physical body. Now, if you decide that you're going to be dumb enough to put your hands on a man, now you're initiating physical interaction. Now, you get back what you dish out. But Should a woman be the recipient of wanton physical abuse from a man? No, she should not. That's obvious. But the woman has been taught all around the world that being a woman and accepting womanhood is a sign of weakness. So now she should be trying to usurp manhood. And that's really what women mean when they say they want to be equal. They mean they actually want to be a man. That's why you see that feminism is a sister movement to the lesbian movement. And what will you almost unerringly see amongst lesbians? You'll see one female who's trying to convey the image of a man, and you'll see the other one who's trying to convey the image of a female. So that shows you that deep down the female understands that she has a role that she must play. She just does not want to be submissive to an actual man.
Eventually, yes, and hopefully in my lifetime.
There are big changes in Saudi Arabia. Women are joining the workforce in record numbers, and next year they'll finally be allowed to drive after more than 2 decades of protests.
Yeah, they're going to be allowed to drive. They're going to be allowed to drive from their garage to the front of their house. That's about it. Because most of them men ain't having that. Look, most men who have understanding and common sense know that the main reason, I mentioned this in the first video, the main reason why a woman wants to drive is so that she can go visit or meet other men. I mean, what really would be the purpose of the woman driving per se in and of itself, unless she's quote unquote driving to work. And the woman is just starting to be able to work in Saudi Arabia. So of course she wants to be able to drive to meet other men. So this whole thing is really just meant to tear apart the relationship structure of the Saudi Arabians.
Saudi standards, the country's new crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, is a reformer. And it's not just women who feel more liberated.
Well, they call him a reformer, but they know damn well that he is, that he's been sanctioned for a lot of infractions in regards to human rights. He's waging a very big war with Yemen right now that they're keeping out of the news. Why is that? Because Saudi Arabia is an ally to America and to Great Britain. All right. So in exchange for them being left alone to wage their war against Yemen because they want to take over all of that Saudi Arabian peninsula, in exchange for them being left alone by the United Nations powers, of course, they agree to give oil to Great Britain and America. And they also agree to push some of these feminist doctrines. So that's really what most of this is really about.
Liberated. Take a look at Saudi Arabia's stand-up comedy scene. In this ultra-conservative Islamic kingdom, they still find plenty to laugh at, though this is no democracy and there are red lines.
Look at this shit. How the fuck is she even watching the show? Look at this broad, man. Let me wind this.
They still find plenty to laugh at.
Who the hell is this? They snuck a brother in there? I'm joking, but you know who that really is. That's really one of the indigenous people of Saudi Arabia. I showed one in the last video. This right here is one of the indigenous people of Saudi Arabia. Most of the people of Saudi Arabia are a mixture of the Ottoman Turks who came down and conquered that region with a lot of the indigenous tribes. Okay? So I'm not going to digress too much into the whole Esau thing, but no, brothers, Arab does not equal Esau. You're Esau by your seed line. So Arabs are a mixture. They could be Ishmaelites. They could be, some of them are Edomites. Some of them are Ishmaelites. Some of them are Hamites, because remember, some of the descendants of Ham also settled in the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. So that's why they're called Arabs, because that term literally means mixed. So no, that doctrine is erroneous, but that's another video for another day.
Though this is no democracy, and there are...
Look at this broad. How the fuck she seeing the show? Well, she tapping her man next to say, hey, what does he look like? Hey, but then again, she won't ask that because she might get an ass whoop when she go home for asking that question.
Are red lines.
The sex and religions and this Trump job. I don't know what's Trump job, but...
Politics.
Yes, exactly.
Suleiman Al-Shamri told us his comic influences are American. Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart, and Chris Rock.
So in other words, his big ass is just standing on stage stealing jokes.
I take from Chris Rock. Nobody know. Don't tell anyone.
You stole a joke from Chris Rock?
I do it. I do. Nobody know. Because Chris Rock, I'm sorry. But Saudi, nobody know. And if you come in Saudi, I'm not saying. And I apologize.
Many Saudis are fearful of criticizing their government, but at this conservative mosque...
There goes another indigenous person from that region. When you see to the left there, that so-called black man right there. And there's another one to the right with the white garment on and with the white scarf with the black headband on. All right. So they are still there in that land.
Mosque, some of the faithful told us they're disturbed by the speed of change and especially mixing between the sexes in a place where gender segregation has been the norm.
There's always the possibility of a...
Of course they're concerned with a mixture of the genders, man. That's going to bring about confusion. Let me rewind it just a little bit.
Some of the faithful told us they're disturbed by the speed of change.
Yes, because they see the same thing that I'm seeing, that most of it is contrived and it's for social engineering. Okay? They understand the ramifications of empowering women to this degree with such speed. The woman is not somebody who can handle responsibility well outside of, her maternal responsibilities as a mother. All the other responsibilities will cause her to break down. That's why when you empower the woman, it's for the sole purpose of bringing confusion.
And especially mixing between the sexes in a place where gender segregation has been the norm.
Well, yeah, they're not going to talk right now, but if it goes too far, they're just going to wage a damn holy war. That's all.
There's always the possibility of a backlash from religious conservatives.
Yes, because that shit is coming.
But most Saudis we've spoken to, both women and men, are hoping that doesn't happen.
Bullshit. You probably talked to about 20 people in all, and most of them were all younger and crazy looking like them two broads. The one that looked like Tom Cruise and the other one that looked like Harley Quinn. You know who to go speak to.
Gail.
All right, Holly Williams reporting from Saudi Arabia. Something tells me Chris Rock wouldn't mind that he takes a joke.
What the fuck is Gail wearing? Why is she... Who be putting Gail in this costume and jewelry? Somebody got to tell Gail, this is not Halloween. You're on the morning news.
Joke. What is that saying? Imitation is the most sincere form of
flattery.
Flattery.
They could take it on the road.
Yeah, they could take it.
Duo there.
Have Chris Rock there and then bring him over to the United States.
He's got a great sense of humor. Chris would like that, something tells me. Thank you again.
But anyway, that's the story on Saudi Arabia and the social engineering going on there. They are going to do their best to try to make the men there believe that the woman is someone on their level. They're not going to ever buy that. Remember in the last video, they stated point blank that they believe that the woman has a quarter of a brain. I don't agree with that. I believe that, it's about a half a brain. Oh, boy. No, obviously the woman has an entire brain. All right. But in all seriousness, they're not going to tolerate it. They are going to shut it down at some point. The men are, because they understand the repercussions of allowing the woman to attain an equal amount of prestige or influence as men. It's going to bring about a total dissolution of their society, and they're just not going to allow it. But anyway, peace.